Perennially cranky Democratic strategist James Carville in the New York Times op-ed has released a blistering critique of the state of the Democratic Party, writing, "Constipated, leaderless, confused, a cracked out clown car, divided. These are the words I hear my fellow Democrats using to describe our party as of late. The truth is they're not wrong. The Democratic Party is in shambles." And that is the debut of what I think was a pretty good James Carville impression on the side there. He goes on. Thank you, Cenk. He goes on that Zoran Mamdani's primary victory in the New York mayor's race represents an undeniable fissure in our political soul. And due to the seriousness of this next quote, without the impression, he continues, candidates like Mr. Mamdani are impatient for an economic future that folks my age are skeptical can be delivered. We are divided along ideological lines. A party that is historically allegiant to the state of Israel is at odds with a growing faction that will not look past the abuses in Gaza and the West Bank. From Medicare for all purists to Affordable Care Act reformists, the list goes on and on. And the most interesting of his comments, he talked about an in-party civil war. The Democratic Party is steamrolling toward a civilized civil war. It is necessary to have it. It's even more necessary to delay it. The only thing that can save us now is an actual savior, because a new party can be delivered only by a person. See Barack Obama in 2008 and Bill Clinton in 1992. He went on that regardless of how many podcasts Democrats go on, the new leader of the party won't and should not emerge till after the 2026 midterm. And until then, the party needs to steamroll forward as a united front to win as many seats in the midterms as possible. He says Dems should just let MAGA world fight itself over Epstein, but that the election, like always, will be decided by kitchen table issues. And he uses his reserved style of speaking to explain his plan there. Mr. Trump's big, beautiful domestic policy law is a big, steaming doggy nugget of epic proportion, contemptible to a vast majority of the nation. According to a new CNN poll, over 60% of Americans were opposed to Mr. Trump's bill. For context, when Mr. Trump's first term budget dropped in 2017, the split was closer, with 41% opposed and 28% in favor. He continues, our midterm march starts with a simple phrase every candidate can blast on every screen and stage. We demand a repeal. A repeal of Mr. Trump's spending law is the one word that should define the midterms. It is clear, forceful, and full-throated. It must be slathered across every poster, every ad, every social media post from now until November 2026. That single word is our core message. Every Democrat can run on it with outrage directed not at the president or a person, but at this disastrous bill. And the reasons are countless. Each one a venom-tipped political dagger. He goes on that we need a repeal to save Medicaid, to stop the slashing of 1.1 trillion from healthcare in general, taking 11 million people's healthcare away, shuttering hospitals and facilities, especially in rural areas, repeal to save the deficit, this bill adding over 3 trillion to the debt and shrinking the incomes of the poorest 20%, demolishing people's SNAP benefits for the poorest among us who need food, and stop the endless wars. He ends with this thought. We've never had a simpler, more unifying oppositional message. Soon it will no longer be possible to avoid a brawl between the factions ignited back in the 2016 Democratic presidential primaries. For now, whether you're the progressive Mr. Mamdani, the centrist former representative Abigail Spanberger running for the Virginia governorship, or even Elon Musk, we can all agree on one thing. We demand a repeal onward to the midterms. That is his prescription and prognostication for the Democratic Party. Cenk, your thoughts?
Yeah, agree to disagree. So there's parts that I do agree with. Yeah, after 2026, it's going to be a brawl, and we're going to find out, what the Democratic voters want to a large degree, I hope, and then we're going to go in a new direction. And so, can't wait. And I think that he's leaving out one of the options, which I'll get back to in a second. And I thought your Carville accent was really good.
Thank you.
Credit where credit is due. So, all right, now a small thing. He says, hey, we took on, you need a hero and a guy who's gonna make it be a change agent like Bill Clinton and Barack Obama were. Were they? Bill Clinton, you could argue, made the Democratic Party much more conservative, much more corporate than his predecessors. So, yeah, maybe you could make an argument for Bill Clinton, but Obama, the party was already corporate and establishment, and Obama continued corporate and establishment. Like Obama was kind of legendary for protecting the status quo when he ran on change. So I don't know what he's talking about there. But the establishment folks live on a different planet. And in their planet, Obama probably, if you ask James Carville, he probably thinks Obama brought like 200% change. He passed 1 bill in 8 years, you crazy? Okay, my accent not as good as Ben's. So the part I disagree with most is, now we're gonna have these fights, okay, but we should delay it. Okay, so here we go back to the unity talking point. We should have unity going into these elections. Okay, unity around what? That's what I ask every time. Now, if James agrees we should have unity around the progressive position or the populist position, great, we have a deal, right? But let me guess, James, let me guess, can I guess? You want us to unify around all of your ideas. Oh, right, and your ideas are protect the status quo, run very standard, run-of-the-mill Democrats. Don't try to win with populists or progressives or anything else. No, just stay the same. Why do I have to listen to you anymore? I mean, all of you guys told us how great Hillary Clinton was. And James, let's be honest, you were clownishly wrong, right? And then, Joe Biden was young and dynamic. To be fair to Carville, he called that one out. Fairest show in America, and we'd called it out earlier, but he was relatively early, and for the establishment, he was very early, right? But overall, should we have trusted Democratic leaders then? No. And then they told us, oh, don't worry, we anointed Kamala Harris. And I said we should worry. Who was right, who was wrong? So if we're gonna unify, there's one thing that's super clear. We should not unify around the failed strategies of Democratic leadership that Carville represents. How many times do they have to fail? How many times do they have to fail to a guy who can't clear 70 IQ points before you begin to realize, well, if we're gonna unify around everything, it definitely shouldn't be that. And by the way, those are not the only two options. Mamdani or Spanberger. Spanberger's like corporate and establishment to the hilt. And Mamdani's Democratic Socialist, who earlier was talking about taking over the means of production and stuff. There is a middle ground. There's populists who say, hey, let's go with the super popular economic policies. Paid family leave, all the things that the Democrats never, ever, ever pass while pretending that they're in favor of them. Higher minimum wage, lower drug prices, et cetera. The things that Biden and all of Carville's buddies never pass and never will pass because they work for the donor class. James, you always say, like, I'm talking to him as if he's listening. Okay, he always says it like, oh, he's just a regular guy telling it like it is, et cetera. But you never talk about the donors. Who do you think controls the Democratic Party? Who drove us straight into that iceberg? The donors did. Hell no, we're not gonna unify around that kind of corruption. It's a recipe for a disaster. And all we've had is disaster listening to you knuckleheads. And then finally, he says, oh no, don't do Epstein, don't do Epstein. Why? Why, guys, can we do two things at once? No, apparently, if you're a Democratic politician, me only do one thing, me do 2 appearances, me have corporate talking points, I will read the talking points. They are not about everything, they are about this bill, I can only do, why can't, go on a 3-hour podcast, talk about 8 things. Yes, you could emphasize 1, you could emphasize 2, you can't emphasize 8, I get it, right? But why is Epstein potentially important here? Not because it's this one rando issue or whatever. It's because it goes to the heart of Trump's claim to a lot of his voters, including the independents, that he was not the establishment. He was not the elites, and he was gonna protect you from the elites. Well, that's been proven to be a lie now. That's how you undermine him, because it's true. He undermined himself. He's a liar, and he's part of the elites, and he's covering up Epstein. So you can say that, and that will A, keep a lot of MAGA home, B, flip a lot of independents. And then, am I saying don't talk about the budget bill? No, the budget bill is a disaster. Carville is right about that. 12 million people are gonna get kicked off of healthcare, and that affects their lives directly. And should you talk about that? Absolutely. But yes, you can do 2 issues. Why is it everyone obsessed with, you don't talk about Epstein files? What happened? I thought you were like, oh yeah, I'm right engaged, yeah, I'm just cooking up some paella here, okay. And Ben Yangs, I gotta make, okay, but what, like Epstein is that discussion is super popular, so why don't you want that? Why are you in a sweaty panic like everyone else in the mainstream media to move off the Epstein files? So no, I don't agree with him overall. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think that part of the what he's just saying is that the party needs one leader, not that they're going to reinvent the party, because Obama really in practice didn't do that well. And yes, he left, I think, the DNC very weak, and he kind of hollowed out state parties, and I don't think he was successful in a lot of ways of building a coalition in that way nationwide. But I don't know. I do think that you need to be able to push a focused message, and the Democratic Party is not going to gain discipline overnight. So maybe by saying you push one thing, they land on two things or three things. But once you start with two or three, they're going to end up back at 8 before you know it. And very cleverly, but I do agree with you on pushing Epstein. It's a very large issue, and very cleverly, the Republicans put in Trump's big beautiful bill that most of these negative cuts don't take effect until, of course, after the midterms. And so people aren't going to be feeling the effect of those healthcare cuts, those Medicaid cuts, those SNAP cuts. And so that might not really be very effective. People won't see it. It would be like trying to push tariffs now, when people really aren't in large ways seeing the negative effects of these up and down tariffs. In that way, I think it's a little bit of a problem. But I also just think more than any particular issue, it just has to be an aggressiveness of messaging that the Democratic Party seems never able to implement. I just saw on Instagram right before air, apparently there's a new clip surfacing now of Trump. I don't know how verified it is, so take it with a grain of salt, but saying that, maybe it's on Howard Stern, I think, in the past, saying that he wouldn't rule out girls at any age. Maybe 12-year-olds would be too young for him. Other than that, no problem. And how are there any clips that aren't surfaced during these elections? How is there just drawings that he gave to Epstein for his birthday with lewd comments coming out now and not during the campaign? What is wrong with the opposition research of the Democratic Party? What is wrong with the attack dog nature needed to win in modern politics, that we seem unable until every time it's too late to find the smoking gun that can actually show people the true colors of who these people are? We've had 3 chances with Trump. How is it possible?
Yeah, so I wouldn't look. So let me just address the 12-year-old thing, because we covered it earlier in the show. So he says to Howard Stern, well, my age limit, I guess it wouldn't be 12-year-olds like Congressman Foley, right? Who was involved in a sex scandal at the time. So he's saying not 12-year-olds, but it was like, wow, that's the beginning of the conversation. But most importantly, guys, I wouldn't want Democrats to run on Trump bad. That's not a winning strategy. They tried that 100 times. No, the thing about the Epstein files is not about him being a bad guy. We all already know that. Everybody's past it. It's that he is the great protector of the elites. He will not release the files that could get those elites in a lot of trouble. That's effective, right? Don't just run on Trump bad. And then, look, I think that there's, of course, a third option, which is populism. And so does that have the economic plans of progressives that are very, very popular? Yes. Does that have the culture war stuff? No. Right? So my guess is that Carville would agree with us on not having the culture war stuff in there. But what I'm super curious about, and I don't know with guys like James Carville, is do they know that the donors don't want the economic stuff passed? So that's why they smear it along with like some of the identity politics that polls very badly, and they go, oh, that's all just progressive stuff. Oh, nobody wants paid family leave, that's ridiculous, right? Or does he just not get it? Does he not understand that you could do Bernie's economic proposals and they would be stunningly popular and effective? And I don't know, because he won't come on the show. Nobody asks him. And in mainstream media, there's never any real conversations, right? Like if you talk to them about populism on the left, they're like, what name so? If there's economic and identity politics, those are 2 different things, right? They're like, what? I thought there was just Democrats and Republicans, progressives and conservatives. What do you mean? You're asking me to consider each policy? Oh, so my mind can't handle that. So I don't know where Carville stands on that, but if he's telling us to run away from Bernie's economic proposals, then he's nuts. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.